Hello and welcome back to another episode of Patsy Rates Cars. Hello, I'm Patsy. I am Mrs. Car Obsession and Mr. Car Obsession Aaron is there.
Hello.
So we're doing a new take on Patsy Rates Cars. I am going to take over the video, introduce it, give you my thoughts on the car, and if Aaron's lucky, he'll get a few words in edgeways.
Woohoo.
So I'm going to pass the camera over to Aaron and we will introduce our car for this week. Come on down, Aaron. Oh, and don't forget to do your disclaimer in case I'm a naughty wife and say something naughty.
Oh yes, okay. Apologies guys, I haven't got a clip of microphone on. So we may share the same surname, but Patsy's thoughts on the car do not necessarily reflect my thoughts or indeed car obsession. So basically, Patsy's mean about it. Say it, don't blame me, blame her. Back to you.
Should have said back to you in the car park. Anyway.
That sounds weird.
Well, considering we're the only two here, yes. So, the car we've got to this week is the SEAT Tarraco. Now, the first thing I noticed when I saw the car is, and everyone will know, I'm a colour freak. I'm really fussy with colours on cars, so a blue on one manufacturer I don't like, whereas a blue on another manufacturer I will. I really like this colour.
It's very nice, isn't it?
This colour is called Atlantic Blue.
Yep.
Yeah, woo, brownie point for Patsy. Got a tick on the good wife board for today. So I'll just put around here. The colour on this car is, I know I'm normally the kind of person to say SUVs need a vibrant colour, but this just works. This is like, I know I can't compare the blue to a beach holiday, but this is like going abroad, the first day on the beach and you see the blue sea and you're just like, oh.
Okay, that's quite the metaphor.
But you do go to Spain and SEAT Spain. See, that's my link.
Okay.
So, quickly, just going around the car itself. Front of the car, I've always liked the front of SEAT cars, in particular their SUV range. So, for example, this is where I go brain dead, you'll have to help me.
The Arona and the
That's
Ateca.
it. I was about to say that, Arateca, and I'm muddling the words up. I haven't had my coffee, I am. I've always liked the front of their SUVs. I think they are very stylish, they're very sleek, but they're not too much.
Just quickly.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on this new design language? So the Tarraco, this car signifies a new direction for the SEAT design.
Tell me more.
I'm tongue-tied. So the new Tarraco, this signifies a new direction for the SEAT design language.
Okay.
I personally, I'm not too sure on it, although it's not ugly, but what are your thoughts more importantly?
I think it's a step in the right direction.
Okay, interesting.
I definitely do. I mean, the front is, as I said, is stylish, but there are subtle things that really make it work. So like the honeycomb effect either side of the number plate, the honeycomb effect around the grills, although saying that, around the lights, but saying that your FR has that, so that's not really a new thing, but on an SUV it looks good, and the lights just look very sleek and elegant.
They're very sharp as well.
And I like that there's kind of, so the light is here, it looks a bit more deceptive, but there's this kind of nice big gap and groove, making them look sunken in, so they're a bit more kind of menacing with their look.
See, for me, I think that's part of the problem. I don't like the fact that the headlights are sunken in a little bit. I'm not a big fan of the front grille either, but obviously those are my opinions.
I should have done a flipping a disclaimer at the beginning, because you're the one slating the car in this video.
I'm slating it.
Sorry, slating's a harsh word.
It's a good looking car, but just not. I think the rest of the current SEAT range looks better. Okay. But again, that's
come on, you're yabbering more than me. Come this way. So, side on, not really much to talk about because it's quite plain. I haven't made my mind up on the alloys, simply because I don't think they suit the car.
Okay, interesting.
I think I can't pinpoint it. I really can't pinpoint it, but I think because of the design and styling of this car being quite, in my opinion, sleek and elegant, I think the big chunky spokes, or whatever you want to call them, they're too chunky. It'd be nicer with a more intricate, detailed alloy.
Okay.
Coming round to the back, because there's not much more to talk about, mind the stingy nettles.
Yeah, will do. Thank you.
Again, you'll probably know what I'm going to say. I'm going to talk about the lights, and I mentioned this on the Proceed that you had.
Yep, Pro CGT, the
Yep,
Kia.
the shooting brake version, in case anyone queries. The lights. I love how the lights of a car don't just stop where you'd assume a light ends. I like how it kind of flows around the back of the whole of the boot. It adds so much more, I wouldn't say character, but kind of perspective and depth to the look of the car.
Yeah.
One thing I will say, it's going to be hard to explain, but there's too much going on in this half. Everything seems to be squashed in this bottom half, and this just seems to be all glass. I'm not complaining, because obviously rear visibility, I'm assuming, is good, but it just kind of...
Not bad. Obviously, it's obviously when the car's fully laden.
If this was a human, it would be someone that's got a massive forehead and all of their facial features scrunched together at the bottom of their face.
Right. Okay.
So the only other thing to kind of mention, it's going to be picky, but I don't really like the silver kind of plasticky trim around the rear, and I don't really like the silver plastic trim down the side.
Okay.
I don't know, I get why they've done it, because there's obviously silver roof rails, silver around the window frames, but I think that would have been nice, maybe in like a dark grey, like a satin grey or so on, or even just black.
Okay, interesting.
I mean, what are your thoughts on the outside? You spoke about the front. Overall, what are your thoughts on the outside design and the outside styling?
Overall, I do think it's a good looking car. I think it's better looking than the Kodiaq.
Which is probably its main competitor.
Obviously, yeah, underneath this is essentially a Skoda Kodiaq, because they are built on the same platform, and you've also got the Volkswagen Tiguan Allspace. I think it's a good looking car. I'm just not completely
You're not sold on it, are you?
The front end. No, I think compared to the rest of the Seat's range, dare I say, this feels like a bit of a step backwards for me. But again, you know, looks and design, they are and always will be subjective.
Okay. Shall we jump inside?
Yeah, go for it.
Yep, I'm going to go around this way. Okay. I shall meet you through the door.
Oh, let me turn it off, because the ignition was turned on.
So, the first thing when you open the door, you are greeted by what I feel is quite a premium and stylish inside. The first thing that comes to mind when I look at these seats is what are those humbug suites?
Well, they're called humbugs.
Oh yeah. The only thing that I'm going to say about the inside being picky is I'm not kind of keen on the brown kind of fake suede and grey seats. I don't think the brown fits in with the colour and styling of the car.
The brown does look a little bit out of place, but I don't know why. I like it, and I can't work out why, because I think, you know, black would look better, but I don't know, the brown for me somehow works. I can't put my finger on
suppose at
it.
least if you follow through in this car, it won't matter.
Oh.
But
Trust you to lower the tone.
Well, I would say even if this was grey suede or black, it's better than the brown.
Yeah.
Jumping into the car itself, well, I'm not going to jump, but so once I'm kind of in the car and I'm sat down, I feel like I'm at the right height for an SUV. I'm not too tall, not too high up, not too sunken down. Seats are, apart from the brown, they're quite comfortable. They're supportive enough, but not too kind of sculpted. There's a lot of nice fabrics in here. Like even the door bins have got fabric in. It is.
Nice handy touch.
It is a teeny, like this much, bit boring and bland in here.
Yes, it's well presented and
yes,
it's finished nicely, but it is a little bit boring, if you ask me.
Yeah. Makes me want to fall asleep.
Well,
at least I've got a comfortable seat to do it.
I wouldn't say it's quite that bad, but yeah, it's not the most enticing, but it's not, at the same time, it's not offensive either. It's just a tad bland.
But taking that away, it is nice in here. There are enough soft materials, there's enough room to get comfortable, there's enough storage and cubby holes. There isn't too much cheap, tacky plastic. It's a nice place to be for an extended period of time, but I wouldn't go out my way as to say it's outstanding, it's acceptable. So, any more of your thoughts for inside for the car before you jump in?
No, not really. Although it's not the most exciting in here, what I will say is that compared to the...
Excuse me.
Do you remember when I had the Peugeot 5008 quite a while back? That was very nice inside. The interior is nicer than this, but it wasn't the most functional. And I would argue when it comes to ergonomics and usability, the Tarraco is definitely better than the 5008 in my opinion. Patsy's phone hasn't got a headphone jack, so she is using mine for her clip-on microphone, so I haven't got a clip-on microphone. So
I only done it because I know they don't want to hear you.
Hopefully you can still hear me, but I will talk up a little bit more just in case.
Don't raise your voice at me.
What?
I ain't deaf. First things first, when you get into the car and you pull off as a passenger, it's smoother than I expected it to be, as in the way it transitions. So the way I say gearbox, but
What do you mean?
You know what I mean.
Do you mean that the actual engine and the gearbox of the body?
Yeah, the engine and the gearbox, they seem to communicate really well. It seems to be smooth transitions and talking between the engine and the gearbox, which therefore obviously means that, well, for a passenger, the ride for me feels very... What's the correct word? It feels very smooth. It doesn't feel like the car is fighting to change up or down smoothly or correctly.
Yeah.
It feels like everything is talking together to get the best out of the performance out of the car.
Yeah, so the 7-speed DSG works well. One thing I will say is when you have the driving mode set to eco, the gearbox does become a little bit indecisive about what gear it wants to be in, but I think that's obviously because it wants to make sure that it's using the least amount of fuel as possible, so it doesn't want to be in a higher or lower gear where it's using more engine driving, of course, more petrol.
It may sound a silly question, so apologies if it is a silly question, but as a driver, as a non-driver, for me, it's hard to tell the difference between the feedback you get from the modes. So, as a driver, do you feel that between the modes you can feel the change in how the car responds?
Oh yeah, definitely. So in normal mode, the steering's light, the engine is obviously less responsive.
Light steering.
No, I'm quite fussy when it comes to steering. I like my steering quite heavy, but obviously when you pop it in sport mode, the engine becomes... Oh, what's that?
It was a phone.
Oh, you dropped your... You
I dropped your phone.
God, I'm going to need a new phone at this rate.
I've already got you a new phone.
So, yeah, the engine becomes more responsive, the steering becomes heavier, and the overall drive of the car is obviously more sporty. As you know, it does what it says on the tin. As well as sport, normal, and eco, because this car has got SEAT's 4-drive system, 4-wheel drive. I've also got off-road and snow. Oh, I also forgot you've got individual.
How do you feel about the actual comfort of driving? So as a driver, obviously for you it's different, but as a passenger, my kind of comfort, my seating position, the space around me, my overall kind of feeling of being in the car, it is very good. So as a driver, your overall kind of comfort is in, was it easy for you to get a good seating position?
Yes.
Widing wheel? Was it easy to get like the right rake and reach of the driver?
Yeah.
Does it do rake and reach?
Yeah, it does.
Of course, okay. Just checking, because me saying that, I'll probably get shocked that it doesn't. Do you find, again, like things like pedal replacement, do you have enough space to put your feet either side of the pedals?
Yeah, and of course this is an automatic, therefore I've got loads of space for my left foot, which is quite nice. But in regard to comfort, the ride isn't bad in this car. The ride is pretty good, and this car is the Excellence model, therefore I've got 19-inch alloys.
I did think they looked big.
Because of that, it does give the ride a bit of a firm edge. So this car isn't uncomfortable, far from it, but it's not as supple as a Peugeot 5008, for example.
Okay.
But as you said earlier, these seats are very nice. What I like about these seats is that they've got a good amount of comfort, and they're supportive as well. So the side bolstering's actually quite nice.
But it's not
quite
too
sporty.
hugging.
No, it's not. So I do quite like that. Yes, I found it extremely easy to get a comfortable driving position, even though my driver's seat has not got any electric adjustment. So it's all manual, which some may think is a little bit disappointing for a car that costs, well, this car in particular is £35,060.
What's with a random £60?
I've got no idea. But even so, I found it extremely easy to get comfortable in this car. Just want to quickly talk about the engine. So underneath,
I shall let you.
Underneath the bonnet, we have a 2-litre turbocharged petrol, which offers 190 horsepower with 320 newton meters of torque. As I've mentioned, it's four-wheel drive, 7-speed DSG. That's the only option you have for this engine, so you can't have...
I was going to say, is there other options?
Yeah, no, so you can't have front-wheel drive and a manual gearbox, or let's say four-wheel drive and a manual gearbox. It's
this or nothing.
DSG and four-wheel drive.
Yep.
In regard to performance, you're going to hit 62 miles per hour in 8 seconds.
Oh,
Top
blimey,
speed.
that's not too bad.
It's not bad, is it? Bearing in mind, it's a 7-seat car. You know, this car in particular weighs over 1,800 kilograms.
I was expecting you easily to say 10.5.
No, 8 seconds, very, very respectable. And the top speed is an equally respectable 131 miles per hour.
Not that you would do that in the UK.
No, and obviously, I like this engine, but for many buyers, it won't make sense because it's not very economical. And on a combined run, you only get 31 mpg, and the emissions on this car are quite high as well. So, this engine for this car, in all honesty, doesn't really make a lot of sense, but I do quite like it, I must admit. What do you think about how the car drives, the responsiveness of it?
It is responsive. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's nothing to write home about. It doesn't excite me, but it's acceptable enough to be a pleasing enough ride.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say it's anything that I would get excited or shout about.
No, but in fairness, it's not designed for excitement, is it? Although it does make this car quite pokey.
I will say it is quite kind of peppy, and it feels quicker than what it should for a car of this size.
Yeah, exactly. Now, a few people have asked me whether or not there will be a Cupra version of this car coming. There are rumours of it, but nothing concrete. So
this would be quite a lump as a Cupra, though.
The thing is, a part of me thinks, well, who would buy it? But you do have a Skoda Kodiaq VRS, which will essentially, the Cupra version would essentially be the same car.
Well, let's face it, this is much better looking.
Yeah, so I don't know, but yeah.
Would there be a big enough market for it to be a Cupra?
Sorry, let me get my words out. I don't think so, if I'm going to be honest. But Skoda made the Kodiaq VRS, so there's hope. But yeah, I don't really know who needs or who wants to have a fast 7-seater SUV. To me, it just seems a little bit backwards.
So there's not really much else, I think, to talk about in here, unless I've totally missed something, which knowing me, I have.
So I'm really surprised, as someone who works with mobile phones and tablets, you haven't said one word about the touchscreen.
I mean, I haven't had a chance to play about with it, but from past experience with SEAT cars, I have never had a bad thing to say. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I've ever had a bad thing to say about their infotainment systems.
Well, I think it's fantastic.
One thing which I nearly forgot to mention, and Aaron will back me up on this, I was very surprised when he told me that the sound system in this car is standard.
The sound system in this car, I think, is really good.
But again, I have found with the SEAT models when I've been with you that you've tested, their standard infotainment system, their standard kind of sound systems have been very good. The base is brilliant,
Yeah,
but it doesn't take away from the quality of the vocals.
Yeah, and what I was going to say, the bass is set to neutral, so it's not like set really high, it's standard, which is really good. But even the speakers in my SEAT Tarraco,
Oh, in Pingu.
they're pretty good. And how old is that car now? That's
2006.
13 years old now, so that is pretty impressive.
Can't even remember the last time I went in that car.
No, I can't either. Okay, so I think it's about time to start wrapping up, getting your final thoughts, and of course, your rating.
So, Patsy's final thoughts. This car, against its competitors, in my opinion, is the best one. As in overall, not just like individual things, overall, I would buy this car over its competitors for numerous reasons.
Okay, like?
I just prefer the design, the exterior design. Anything bad about this, I wouldn't say there's anything I really don't like. The only thing that I would like more of is a little bit more colour or less dullness in the cabin. But I do feel that, for example, the brown on the seats add more dullness to it. If that was a different colour, I do think it would, even if they made it the colour of the outside of the car.
Okay.
Apart from that, this car has surprised me in many ways. The sound system, the comfort, the outside design and styling, how responsive it is, and how everything mechanical seems to just talk to each other perfectly.
I suppose that should come as a little surprise, given that it's a Volkswagen product.
I would give this a very strong 4.
What do you like most about this car?
The outside design and styling.
And what do you dislike most about the car?
The dullness of the inside.
Yeah, I knew you were going to go and say that. Right, marvellous.
Shall we wrap up?
I think that would be a good idea.
I shall let you do the ending of the video.
Yes, well, thank you so much for watching this video, guys.
Thank you.
I hope you have enjoyed it, or I hope you have found it useful. If so, be sure to like, subscribe, and to ring my bell every time I, or indeed Patsy and I, make a video. But until the next time, guys, be sure to keep up the car obsession.